In the remote village of Duskwood, nestled between misty hills and ancient forests, the cold breath of early winter crept silently through narrow dirt roads and humble thatched roofs. The villagers, wrapped in thick garments, hurried about their chores before nightfall. The chill in the air seemed heavier this year, as if the land itself was weighed down by some unseen burden. Among the modest homes stood a weathered cottage where Elena lived with her young son, Luca. Elena was known for her gentle heart and resilience, a widow who bore the hardships of rural life with quiet dignity. Her days were spent tending to their small vegetable garden and weaving baskets, while Luca, barely 10, helped where he could, fetching water from the well, feeding the chickens, or sweeping the dirt floors. But not all looked kindly upon Elena. Whispers curled through the village like curling smoke from the hearts. Some said she was too outspoken, others accused her of harboring secrets. The jealous and the spiteful, mostly drunkards and idlers, found pleasure in spinning tales that painted her as a woman who lured men away from their homes. The village's harsh gaze made Elena's life even more difficult, but she endured it silently, her main concern being the welfare of Luca. One bitter evening, as the sky darkened under heavy clouds and the last golden hues faded from the horizon, a chilling scene unfolded. 4 rough men from the village, known for their reckless and cruel nature, stalked Elena's cottage under the cover of twilight. They were Marcus, a brutish woodcutter with a fierce temper, Jarek, a drunken blacksmith with a penchant for violence, Tomasz, a sly troublemaker, and Victor, a feared drunkard and womanizer. Fueled by their baseless jealousy and insatiable greed, they barged into Elena's home while she was alone with Luca. The night turned into a nightmare of violence and despair. Elena's desperate cries echoed faintly through the village as Luca, hidden in the shadows, trembled in silent horror. The next morning, the village awoke to a terrible discovery. Elena's lifeless body was found submerged in the cold waters of the village pond. Her skin was pale, marked with bruises and wounds, and her eyes wide open in a final, silent scream. The air was thick with sorrow and fear. Luca wandered the village aimlessly, his small frame shaking as he called for his mother, but no answer came. The village elders and local authorities arrived, but in this forgotten corner of the world, justice was slow and often incomplete. They concluded Elena's death was accidental, a tragic fall into the pond. But the whispered doubts and unease lingered like a fog. At night, those who dared to walk past the pond spoke of shadowy figures seen among the reeds, and of a sorrowful wailing carried on the cold wind. The villagers began to fear that Elena's spirit was restless, bound by the injustice of her violent end. Luca, now orphaned and fragile, was taken in by the village teacher, Mr. Hamlin, a kind but stern man who lived on the village outskirts. Though his home was humble, it was a sanctuary for the boy, a place where he could begin to heal, learn, and grow. Yet the shadows of that dreadful night had only begun to stir in Duskwood. The village of Duskwood was enveloped in a restless silence that only the deepest fear can breed. Days had passed since Elena's tragic death, yet the air was thick with unease, a heavy weight pressing on the hearts of all who lived there. Luca, still small and fragile, sat in the cramped classroom of Mr. Hamlin, his eyes vacant as the teacher tried to guide him through letters and numbers. The boy's mind, however, was consumed with memories of that terrible night, the screams, the shadows, the men who had stolen his mother away. Outside, the village buzzed with gossip and suspicion. Many cast wary glances toward the four men rumored to be involved in Elena's death: Marcus, Jarek, Tomasz, and Victor, who continued their reckless lives, seemingly untouched by remorse. But fate was beginning to weave a darker thread. One evening, as dusk bled into night and lanterns flickered weakly along the streets, an eerie silence fell over the village pub where the four men had gathered. Their drunken laughter died away when an unnatural chill crept through the room. Shadows seemed to twist and writhe on the walls, and a sudden gust extinguished all the candles. Victor was the first to speak, his voice trembling despite himself. "Did you hear that?" he asked. The others nodded, eyes wide. From the dark corners of the pub came a low, mournful wail, the unmistakable sound of a woman's voice, filled with sorrow and rage. The men exchanged nervous glances. Marcus spat on the floor, "It's just the wind, or some damned ghost." But none of them could shake the feeling that they were being watched. That night, as the village lay in uneasy sleep, the four men were visited by terrifying visions. In their dreams, Elena appeared, her eyes blazing with fiery justice, her once gentle face now twisted by rage. She reached out with spectral hands, whispering curses and threats that chilled their very souls. By dawn, each man was found trembling in their homes, pale and broken. Marcus had deep scratches along his arms as if clawed by unseen fingers, Jarek's blacksmith hammer lay shattered by his bedside, Tomasz muttered incoherent warnings about a curse that will not relent, and Victor refused to leave his house, terrified to face the daylight. The village elders, sensing the growing unrest, convened an emergency meeting in the town hall. Mr. Hamlin, though a man of reason and education, could not deny the mounting evidence of supernatural forces at work. He proposed a plan to consult the old ways to bring in Malus, the reclusive herbalist and spiritual healer who lived deep in the woods. Malus was said to possess knowledge of ancient rites and the power to communicate with restless spirits. Though many villagers distrusted her, fearing her witchcraft, the elders agreed desperate times called for desperate measures. Meanwhile, Luca, haunted by the growing darkness, began to experience strange dreams of his own. In these visions, his mother's spirit appeared not as a victim, but as a warrior cloaked in spectral light, promising him protection and strength. "You will carry the fire," she whispered, "and justice will be yours." The boy awoke each morning drenched in sweat, his small fists clenched in determination. Though still young and vulnerable, Luca's heart stirred with a fierce resolve to uncover the truth behind his mother's death, and to bring peace to the restless spirit that bound them both. But dark forces were already moving in the shadows. Unknown to the villagers, a sinister presence watched from the edge of the forest, a figure cloaked in shadow, whose motives were as mysterious as the growing curse. As the village prepared for Malus' arrival, tensions rose. The line between the living and the dead blurred, and every whispered rumor carried the weight of dread. Duskwood's fate hung in the balance, and the storm was only beginning. The crisp morning sun barely warmed the frost-laden streets of Duskwood as Malus, the enigmatic herbalist, made her slow way into the village. Cloaked in earth-toned robes, her silver-streaked hair framed a face etched with wisdom and sorrow. The villagers watched her arrival with mixed feelings: curiosity, fear, and hope intertwining in their eyes. Malus carried a satchel filled with dried herbs, ancient talismans, and small vials containing mysterious liquids. Her deep, knowing gaze swept over the gathered crowd, sensing the pervasive anguish hanging thick like the morning fog. At the village hall, the elders convened, and Malus began her inquiry. She listened carefully as the villagers recounted the horrors: Elena's violent death, the strange happenings, the terrifying visions tormenting the four men, and the eerie wails that pierced the night. After the meeting, Malus requested to visit the pond where Elena's body was found. Standing silently by the water's edge, she closed her eyes, murmuring words in a language long forgotten. The wind stirred, rippling the water, as if awakening some slumbering force beneath. That night, as the village lay under a heavy shroud of darkness, a gathering took place deep within the forest. Malus had summoned a small group of villagers brave enough to accompany her to a sacred grove, a place said to be a thin veil between the living and the spirit world. Among them was Luca, now clothed in a thick cloak, his young face set with fierce determination. His eyes burned with the memory of loss and the promise whispered in his dreams. In the grove, Malus prepared a ritual circle, scattering herbs, and drawing ancient symbols in the soil. She lit candles whose flames flickered with unnatural hues, blues and greens that cast dancing shadows. With a voice both commanding and gentle, Malus called upon the spirit of Elena, urging her to reveal the truth and find peace. Suddenly, the air grew icy. A translucent figure emerged, shimmering like moonlight on water. Elena's spirit was there, but transformed, no longer a helpless victim, but a fierce guardian clad in spectral armor, her eyes glowing with radiant justice. She spoke not in words, but images, visions shown to those present. The truth unfolded: her death was no accident or mere violence of men, but part of a dark plot orchestrated by a malevolent force lurking beyond the village. The four men had been pawns in a sinister game, their souls now tethered to her wrath. The villagers gasped, the forest around them seeming to pulse with energy. Luca stepped forward, feeling a surge of power resonate within him. Malus warned them, the curse binding Elena's spirit was not yet broken. Dark forces would seek to claim more victims, and only through courage, unity, and the rediscovery of ancient rites could the village hope to survive. Back in the village, strange phenomena escalated. Crops wilted overnight, animals grew restless, unexplainable lights flickered in the woods. Some villagers reported seeing ghostly figures lurking near their homes. Meanwhile, the four men who had caused so much pain were now tormented beyond reason. Jarek was found babbling incoherently about shadows devouring his soul. Tomasz disappeared into the forest, never to be seen again. Marcus grew increasingly violent, his mind unraveling. Victor's house was set ablaze under mysterious circumstances, leaving only ashes behind. Luca, inspired by his mother's spirit and Malus' guidance, began to learn the old ways: how to read the signs, how to harness the hidden energies that pulsed through Duskwood. Yet, the shadowy figure that watched from afar smiled with cruel intent. The true architect of the village's torment was preparing to reveal himself, his hunger for chaos growing. As the village held its breath, a storm gathered on the horizon, one that would test the limits of courage, friendship, and the fragile barrier between life and death. The days after Melis's ritual passed in a tense silence. Though the villagers had glimpsed the truth behind Elena's death, the sense of security was still a distant hope. The shadow that loomed over Duskwood had not lessened, only grown darker and more insidious. Luca awoke each morning with a restless spirit. The dreams of his mother, a fierce spectral warrior, continued to visit him, urging him to grow stronger, to seek out the hidden knowledge that might free them both. Though still a boy, Luca felt an ancient power simmering beneath his fragile frame. Mr. Hamlin, the village teacher, noticed the change. The boy who once sat silently at the back of the class now sought answers, asking questions about old legends, spirits, and the unseen forces that govern the world. One afternoon, while exploring the edge of the forest, Luca discovered an ancient shrine half buried beneath moss and vines. Its carved stone pillars bore faded symbols, some he had seen in Melis's ritual. He felt a surge of energy as he traced the glyphs with trembling fingers. That night, the village was shaken by new horrors. Marcus, the once proud woodcutter, had become a shadow of himself. His mind unraveling from relentless torment, he wandered the woods muttering incoherent curses. The villagers found him near the pond where Elena died, scratching furiously at the ground as if trying to claw his way out of an invisible prison. The next morning, Marcus was found dead, hanging from an ancient oak, his face twisted in terror. No one dared approach the site, for strange lights flickered among the branches, and a chill wind whispered of vengeance. Jarek's fate was no less grim. The blacksmith's workshop burned in the dead of night, flames consuming years of work and memories. Villagers spoke of a fiery apparition seen dancing among the embers, a woman's silhouette glowing with righteous fury. The disappearance of Tomasz only deepened the fear. Some said he had fled to escape the curse, others whispered that Elena's spirit had claimed him. His empty home was left untouched, dust settling like forgotten secrets. Victor, the last of the four, was nowhere to be found. Rumors spread that he had taken refuge in the neighboring town, but the truth was more unsettling. Those who dared venture near his ruined house reported hearing screams and seeing shadows flit through shattered windows. Amidst the growing chaos, Melis called upon the villagers to prepare for what she called the Night of Reckoning. She explained that Elena's spirit was bound not only by sorrow but by a curse older than the village itself, a dark force seeking to consume all light and justice. She led a group of villagers, including Luca and Mr. Hamlin, to uncover the roots of the curse buried beneath the village. They delved into forgotten texts, unearthed relics, and spoke with the oldest elders who remembered tales from centuries past. They learned of a malevolent spirit named Malakar, an ancient entity imprisoned long ago beneath the forest, whose chains were weakened by human cruelty and bloodshed. The violent death of Elena had stirred Malakar's wrath, feeding his desire for chaos and vengeance. As the Night of Reckoning approached, Luca's training intensified. Melis taught him how to harness spiritual energy, to protect himself and others from dark influence. The boy showed remarkable aptitude, his connection to his mother's spirit growing stronger with each lesson. But the darkness was not idle. On the eve of the ritual to seal Malakar once again, Strange occurrences plagued the village. Crops wilted overnight, animals vanished without a trace, and unsettling whispers filled the air. Even the bravest villagers felt their courage wane. In a desperate bid to protect the village, Malus and Luca ventured into the heart of the forest where the ancient prison was said to lie. They encountered twisted creatures, shadows that moved with malicious intent, and traps set by Malakar to deter intruders. Guided by Elena's spectral presence, they navigated the treacherous path. Luca's heart pounded as he faced visions of fear and despair designed to break his spirit. Yet, fueled by love and determination, he pressed on. At last, they reached a cavern sealed by runes glowing with dark energy. Malus prepared the ritual circle while Luca channeled the power of his mother's spirit. The air crackled with tension as ancient forces clashed in a battle unseen by mortal eyes. Suddenly, Malakar's voice echoed a thunderous roar that shook the earth. The spirit manifested, a towering shadow wreathed in flame and malice, its eyes burning with eternal hatred. Luca stood firm, reciting the incantations taught by Malus, his voice steady despite the overwhelming dread. The cavern filled with blinding light as Elena's spirit joined the fight, her ethereal sword cutting through the darkness. The battle raged through the night. The fate of Duskwood hung in the balance. As dawn's first light pierced the ancient forest canopy, the cavern echoed with the fading cries of the battle. The oppressive darkness that once seemed insurmountable now retreated, flickering like a dying flame. Luca, exhausted but unyielding, stood beside Malus amid the remnants of the ritual circle. Elena's radiant spirit hovered close, her eyes softened from their previous fury, a silent promise of protection lingering in the air. Yet, peace was fleeting in Duskwood. Unbeknownst to the villagers and their champions, the defeat of Malakar's manifested form was but a fragment of a grander scheme. Deep beneath the soil, where roots of ancient trees twisted like serpents, another malevolent force stirred, an entity older and far more cunning than Malakar. This shadow was known in whispered legends as Braxis, the Weaver of Fates, a spirit who thrived on despair and broken promises. For centuries, Braxis lay dormant, feeding off the suffering of mortals from the shadows, weaving chaos with subtle hands. With Malakar's temporary defeat, Braxis saw its opportunity. It began to infiltrate the dreams of villagers, planting seeds of doubt and fear, twisting hearts against each other. In the village square, tensions flared. The already fragile peace shattered by whispered accusations and paranoia. Friends became foes, neighbors exchanged cold glances. Malus watched helplessly as the fabric of the community unraveled. Luca felt the pull of the darkness in his own dreams. Night after night, Braxis appeared as a serpent of shadows, its voice sweet yet poisonous. It tempted him with promises, power to avenge his mother fully, strength beyond his years, the ability to command spirits themselves. But Luca, grounded by Elena's unwavering guidance and Malus's teachings, resisted. He knew that such power came at a grave cost. Meanwhile, strange disappearances plagued the outskirts of Duskwood. Livestock vanished, and eerie lights flickered in the woods. Some villagers claimed to hear haunting melodies carried on the wind, songs that lured the unwary deeper into the forest, never to return. Malus gathered a small band of trusted villagers, including Luca, Mr. Hamlin, and a skilled hunter named Raran. They prepared to venture into the uncharted forest, determined to confront the new threat. Their journey was perilous. The forest seemed alive with eyes watching their every step. Twisted roots reached out like claws, and unseen creatures skittered just beyond sight. The deeper they traveled, the heavier the air grew, thick with malevolent energy. At the heart of the forest, they discovered an ancient stone altar covered in dark runes pulsating with wicked light. This was the source of Braxis's power, a place where the boundaries between worlds thinned dangerously. Raran explained the legends of the altar, how it had once been sealed by a forgotten order of guardians who sacrificed everything to keep Braxis imprisoned. Malus began preparations to reseal the altar, calling upon sacred chants and protective wards. Luca stood guard, his senses heightened, feeling the presence of Braxis growing stronger. Suddenly, the air shimmered, and Braxis emerged, a shifting mass of shadow and smoke, eyes like burning coals, voice dripping with malice. A fierce battle ensued, not only of physical might but of wills and spirit. Braxis lashed out with illusions and mind tricks, attempting to break their resolve. Luca's training and his bond with Elena's spirit proved vital. Drawing upon the love and pain that fueled his determination, he confronted Braxis directly, reciting the incantations Malus taught him. With a blinding flash, the altar sealed once more, trapping Braxis in its ancient prison. Exhausted but victorious, the group returned to Duskwood, hopeful that the darkest days might finally be ending. But Malus warned them, her voice grave, "Evil never rests. It only waits. The true battle for this village's soul has only just begun." Days after their harrowing journey into the forest, a fragile calm returned to Duskwood. The villagers cautiously resumed their daily lives, yet the scars of recent horrors remained etched in every wary glance and hushed whisper. Luca, now seen by many as a beacon of hope, struggled with the weight of his growing responsibilities. At night, his dreams were plagued by flashes of memories not his own, glimpses of a life before, of faces unfamiliar, of a shadowy past cloaked in mystery. One evening, as the moon hung low and silver over the village, Luca confided in Malus about these visions. Her eyes darkened with concern. "These are fragments of your true heritage," she explained. "There is more to your story than you realize, blood ties that bind you to powers both light and dark." Determined to uncover the truth, Malus led Luca to a hidden chamber beneath her cottage, a secret sanctuary lined with ancient scrolls and relics. There, she revealed a weathered journal belonging to Elena, written in a script both beautiful and arcane. As Luca pored over the pages, a tale unfolded. Elena was not merely a simple village woman, but a descendant of an ancient line of spirit guardians tasked with protecting the balance between worlds. Her death was part of a dark conspiracy aimed at breaking this balance to unleash chaos. The journal spoke of a mysterious figure known only as the Veil Master, a shadowy puppet master who sought to control the forces of Malakar and Braxis to dominate the living realm. Realizing the magnitude of the threat, Luca knew his fight was far from over. He needed allies. Meanwhile, in the village, strange happenings escalated. Crops withered overnight, animals fled, and a thick fog settled, refusing to lift. Some villagers reported encounters with ghostly apparitions, and old superstitions surged anew. Among the villagers, a newcomer arrived, Seraphine, a warrior monk from distant lands, skilled in both combat and spiritual arts. Her arrival was met with suspicion, but Malus welcomed her, sensing the importance of her role. Seraphine and Luca quickly formed a bond, training together, sharing knowledge of ancient rites and battle techniques. Their friendship blossomed into something deeper, a fragile light amid the growing darkness. But danger lurked closer. One night, a band of shadow creatures attacked the village outskirts, slinking from the forest. Villagers awoke to screams as homes were set ablaze and livestock slaughtered. Luca, Seraphine, and Malus led the defense, fighting side by side in a desperate battle beneath a blood-red moon. Though victorious, the attack left the village battered and fearful. The Veil Master's influence was spreading, manipulating dark forces to sow chaos and fear. As dawn broke, Luca stood before the village, voice steady despite the turmoil. "We must stand united," he declared. "Only together can we face what comes next." The true war for Duskwood's soul was just beginning. The peaceful facade of Duskwood had long since crumbled. The village now stood as a battleground between light and shadow, its fate intertwined with forces far beyond mortal comprehension. Luca, Seraphine, and Malus worked tirelessly to fortify the village's defenses. As the days grew colder, so did the hearts of those around them. Fear and suspicion gnawed at the community, threatening to tear it apart from within. One evening, under a veil of heavy clouds, a stranger arrived at the village gates. Clad in a dark cloak, the figure's eyes gleamed with unsettling intelligence. He introduced himself as Eamon, a scholar of the occult and former apprentice of the Veil Master himself. The villagers were wary, but Malus sensed sincerity in Eamon's presence. He claimed to possess forbidden knowledge about the Veil Master's plans and weaknesses, offering to aid their cause. Yet, trust was a rare commodity in Duskwood. Luca found himself torn between hope and doubt, sensing that Eamon's arrival might bring salvation or destruction. Meanwhile, Seraphine trained Luca in advanced combat techniques and spiritual disciplines. Their bond deepened, blossoming into a tentative romance, a brief light in the gathering darkness. But the Veil Master was not idle. From his shadowed lair, hidden in the crumbling ruins deep beneath the forest floor, he wove his web tighter. Using ancient magic, he began to infiltrate the minds of Duskwood's leaders, sowing discord and turning friend against friend. One by one, key figures in the village succumbed to whispered lies and sinister influence. The village council fractured, with factions forming, some driven by fear, others by ambition. In the dead of night, Luca's closest ally, the village elder Aldrich, was found unconscious, a dark sigil burned into his palm, a mark of the Veil Master's corruption. Desperate, Luca, Seraphine, and Malus confronted Eamon, demanding to know the truth. Eamon revealed a shocking secret: the Veil Master was once a guardian like Elena, corrupted by a thirst for power and vengeance after losing his own family to darkness. His ultimate goal was to break the barrier between the spirit and mortal realms, to remake the world in his image. Time was running out. Together, the group devised a daring plan to find and destroy the Veil Master's phylactery, the source of his immortality and power, hidden within the ruins of an ancient temple. The journey would be perilous, filled with traps, spirits twisted by malice, and the Veil Master's loyal cultists lurking in every shadow. As Luca prepared to face his destiny, the weight of his heritage pressed upon him. But with Seraphim by his side and Malis's wisdom guiding him, he felt ready to challenge the darkness threatening to consume everything he loved. The fate of Duskwood and perhaps the entire world hung in the balance. The morning mist clung thick to the ancient forest as Luca, Seraphim, Malis, and Eamon prepared to embark on the most dangerous journey yet. The ancient temple, forgotten by time and swallowed by vines and shadow, awaited them deep within the wilderness, the very place where the Veil Master's phylactery was said to be hidden. Before they left, Malis handed Luca a pendant carved from a shimmering blue stone. "This will protect your spirit from the darkness you'll face," she said, her voice heavy with both hope and warning. Their path was treacherous from the start. Twisting roots threatened to trip them, eerie whispers slithered through the air, and shadows seemed to stretch and breathe around every bend. As they approached the temple's entrance, a massive stone archway covered in cryptic runes loomed overhead. The air was thick with ancient power, and even Seraphim's keen senses tingled with unease. Inside, darkness swallowed them whole. Flickering torchlight revealed crumbling walls adorned with murals depicting battles between light and shadow, guardians, and corrupted spirits. The group pressed onward, knowing that traps and guardians of old awaited. Suddenly, the ground trembled. From the shadows emerged twisted beings, former guardians turned to stone, now animated by dark magic. The companions fought valiantly, their skills pushed to the limit as spectral claws tore and magic flared. During the battle, Eamon revealed a hidden knowledge, a chant that could weaken the corrupted guardians. Luca led the incantation, his voice echoing with the power inherited from Elena. The guardians shattered, leaving behind ancient relics, one of which bore a fragment of the Veil Master's power. Their victory was short-lived, as deeper in the temple, a darker trial awaited. They descended into a labyrinthine crypt filled with shifting walls and illusions crafted to prey on their deepest fears. Luca found himself face to face with visions of failure, his mother's suffering, villagers blaming him, shadows creeping over the village forever. Each vision threatened to drown his spirit in despair. But Seraphim's voice broke through the darkness. "You are stronger than your fears, Luca. Remember who you fight for." Drawing strength from her words, Luca shattered the illusions with a burst of pure light, clearing the path forward. In the temple's innermost chamber, they discovered the Veil Master's phylactery, a black crystal pulsating with malevolent energy, encased in a cage of twisting thorns and runes. As Malis prepared the ritual to destroy it, the Veil Master himself appeared, his form shifting between shadow and flame, eyes burning with fury. A fierce confrontation erupted, magic clashing with steel, wills tested beyond their limits. Luca engaged the Veil Master, wielding the combined power of Elena's spirit and his own growing strength. Seraphim fought off cultists trying to disrupt the ritual, while Malis chanted the sealing incantations. The battle reached its peak as Luca drove his blade through the phylactery. The black crystal shattered, releasing a shockwave of energy that tore through the temple. The Veil Master screamed, dissolving into shadows that fled into the corners of the world. Exhausted but victorious, the companions emerged into the dawn light, the first true rays of sun in many weeks. Yet, as they returned to Duskwood, a subtle chill lingered in the air. Though the Veil Master was defeated, the world remained filled with shadows and the fight for balance would never truly end. The village of Duskwood slowly began to heal from the scars left by the Veil Master's dark reign. Yet beneath the fragile peace, old wounds festered, and forgotten secrets clawed their way to the surface. Luca, now hailed as a hero, found himself haunted not by enemies, but by questions about his own identity. The fragments of Elena's journal had hinted at a lineage steeped in mystery and power, but how deep did those roots go? One evening, while poring over the journal once more, Luca discovered a hidden map, a faded, cryptic guide leading to a forgotten sanctuary beyond the village. The markings suggested this place held answers about his family's true legacy. Determined, Luca, with Seraphine and Malus, set out on a new quest. The journey led them to a cavern hidden beneath a waterfall, where ancient murals depicted the history of spirit guardians and their battles against darkness. Here, Luca uncovered a secret chamber containing an ancestral relic, a mirror-like artifact said to reveal the true self to those brave enough to gaze upon it. As Luca looked into the mirror, visions flooded his mind. He saw his mother Elena, not just as the woman he knew, but as a powerful guardian who had once stood against the Veil Master and other dark forces. He also saw himself, not as a mere boy, but as the last scion of this guardian bloodline destined to carry on the fight. Suddenly, the mirror's surface rippled, revealing an unexpected figure, a man cloaked in shadows with piercing eyes, his face both familiar and terrifying. It was the Veil Master's true form, a figure from Luca's past he had never known existed, his own father, corrupted by darkness long ago. The revelation shattered Luca's world. Returning to the village, Luca struggled with this truth, the line between good and evil blurred by blood and fate. Seraphine stood by him, offering unwavering support as they faced not only external threats but the turmoil within. Meanwhile, whispers in the village spoke of lingering shadows and a mysterious sickness spreading among the crops and animals, signs that darkness still lingered, waiting for its moment. Malus urged the villagers to prepare, warning that the battle was far from over. The true enemy was no longer just a distant shadow, but a tangled web of family, fate, and power. As the sun set, Luca stood atop the hill overlooking Duskwood, resolve hardening in his eyes. The fight for his mother's legacy, for the village, and for himself was only beginning. The shadows that haunted Duskwood began to manifest in new, sinister forms. The mysterious sickness ravaging crops and animals was but a symptom of a deeper, more insidious corruption creeping through the village's heart. Luca, now burdened by the shocking truth of his lineage, knew he could not face the looming darkness alone. With Seraphine and Malus at his side, he sought allies beyond the village boundaries. Their journey led them to the neighboring town of Eldermoor, a place steeped in magic and ancient secrets. There, they encountered a secretive order of spirit warriors known as the Luminaries, guardians sworn to protect the balance between worlds. Among the Luminaries was Kalen, a seasoned warrior with a mysterious past and unmatched skill in both combat and spiritual magic. Initially wary of Luca and his companions, Kalen tested their resolve through rigorous trials, challenging not only their strength but their hearts. Meanwhile, back in Duskwood, the Veil Master's lingering influence sowed discord. A trusted friend of Luca's, one believed loyal, revealed himself as a spy for the dark forces, betraying the village's defenses. This betrayal led to a devastating attack under cover of night. Shadowy creatures infiltrated Duskwood, spreading chaos and fear. Homes were burned, and villagers were kidnapped, their fates unknown. Luca and his newfound allies raced back, their hearts heavy but their resolve unwavering. In the heat of battle, Kaelin's leadership, and Seraphine's fierce combat prowess shone brightly, rallying the villagers to fight back. Yet, the cost was high. Trust fractured, scars deepened, and the true nature of the Veil Master's plan began to unravel, a plan that threatened not just Duskwood, but the entire realm. As the dust settled, Lucas stood amidst the ruins, his spirit unbroken. The fight was far from over, but with allies old and new, he would face whatever darkness awaited. The aftermath of the attack left Duskwood battered but unbowed. The villagers worked tirelessly to rebuild, yet an oppressive darkness hung heavy over every heart. The betrayal had cut deep, and the scars were both physical and spiritual. Lucas stood at the village's edge, eyes scanning the horizon as the sun dipped below twisted branches. His thoughts churned. The Veil Master's plan was far from complete, and the true battle was yet to come. The arrival of Kaelin and the Luminaries' order had brought renewed hope, but also new questions. Who exactly was the Veil Master, and how deep was his influence? The answers lay within the mysterious Shadow Realm, a parallel dimension where darkness ruled, and lost souls wandered endlessly. Malus, Seraphine, and Luca prepared for a perilous journey into this realm. It was said only those bound by strong spirit and unwavering will could survive the passage. Before departing, Luca sought counsel from the village elder, Myra, a woman rumored to possess visions of the past and future. In a dimly lit chamber filled with flickering candles, Myra revealed a prophecy: the child of light and shadow must face the Veil Master in his true form. Only by embracing the darkness within can he hope to restore balance. These words haunted Luca. He knew this meant confronting not only the Veil Master but the darkness inside himself. Guided by ancient rites, the group performed the portal opening ritual beneath the ancient oak tree said to connect the realms. As Malus chanted, the air shimmered and warped, revealing a swirling gateway of shadow and light. Stepping through, they entered the Shadow Realm, a place of swirling mists, eerie landscapes, and endless twilight. The laws of reality twisted here, time and space lost meaning. They traversed desolate plains of broken dreams and forests of screaming trees, each step weighed down by unseen threats. Shadows flickered at the edge of vision, whispering secrets and lies. Suddenly, they were ambushed by wraith-like creatures, manifestations of corrupted souls bound to the Veil Master's will. The battle was fierce and unforgiving. Luca's spirit pendant glowed fiercely, shielding him from despair's grasp. In the heart of the realm, they found the Veil Master's fortress, a towering spire carved from black obsidian, pulsating with malevolent energy. Inside, twisted corridors and traps awaited, designed to break even the strongest will. Facing illusions that preyed on their fears and memories, Luca and his companions pressed on. At one point, Luca confronted a vision of his father, the Veil Master, not as an enemy but as a broken man, consumed by grief and rage. The encounter shook Luca's resolve but also deepened his understanding. The darkness was not absolute, redemption was possible. Finally, they reached the Veil Master's inner sanctum. The final battle commenced, magic and steel clashing, spirits colliding in a dance of light and shadow. Luca drew upon every lesson, every shred of strength and love, wielding both his mother's legacy and his own burgeoning power. The Veil Master revealed his ultimate weapon, a fragment of Luca's own soul twisted by darkness, a mirror image reflecting the boy's fears and doubts. In a desperate gambit, Luca embraced the shadow self, merging light and dark within to unleash a purifying force that shattered the Veil Master's power. With a final scream, the Veil Master's essence dissolved, the fortress crumbling as the Shadow Realm began to collapse. Breathless, wounded but victorious, Luca and his companions fled the crumbling realm, stepping back into the fading light of Duskwood. The battle was won, but Luca knew the path ahead was long. Darkness may retreat, but it never disappears. Balance required vigilance, courage, and sacrifice. After returning from the Shadow Realm, Duskwood seemed to breathe anew. The landscape flourished with vibrant greens, warm sunlight bathed the moss-covered roofs, and birdsong filled the air, a rare peace settling over the village. Yet within the hearts of its people, memories of darkness lingered, a solemn reminder never to be forgotten. Luca, now matured beyond his years, stood atop the highest hill overlooking his beloved village. His face bore the marks of hardship, a mix of steadfast courage and unyielding hope. The battle against the Veil Master and the shadows within himself had forged him into the true heir of the ancient guardian lineage. He recalled the painful moments, the haunting dreams of his past, and most of all, his mother Elena's enduring words, the source of his boundless strength and love. Her spirit remained by his side, a flame that would never extinguish in his soul. Beside him stood Seraphin, his steadfast companion through every trial, who had become more than a friend, a love deepened by shared struggle and unwavering trust. She gently held his hand, offering comfort and strength in this moment of calm. Malus, the wise healer and spiritual guide, remained the village's beacon of light. With her knowledge and patience, she helped the people transcend the shadows, passing down ancient wisdom to safeguard Duskwood forever. Together with Kalen and the Luminaries' order, they began rebuilding not just homes, but the bonds of trust, hope, and courage that define a community's soul. Yet Luca knew peace was not the end, but the beginning of a longer journey. Darkness might return, but with the lessons of the past and the power within, he would stand firm. On a warm afternoon, Luca held a ceremony beneath the village's ancient oak, the very tree where all their stories began. He lit a candle for Elena and all who had fallen, pledging to protect Duskwood and its future generations from any looming threat. The candle burned brightly in the quiet air, small, yet resilient, a symbol of hope that would never fade. In the end, Duskwood was more than a humble village, it was a testament to the spirit's strength, a triumph over darkness, and a tribute to sacrifice, love, and justice. And the story of Luca, the child of light and shadow, would be told forevermore, a legend never to be forgotten. Title: Duskwood Chronicles, The Guardian's Legacy. Description: in the quiet village of Duskwood, a dark curse awakens, threatening to consume everything in its path. Young Luca, burdened by a mysterious heritage and haunted by the tragic death of his mother Elena, must rise as the last guardian to face ancient evils that blur the line between the living and the dead. Joined by fierce allies and guided by ancient wisdom, Luca embarks on a perilous journey through shadowed realms and forgotten secrets. As darkness spreads and betrayal lurks within, only courage, love, and the strength to embrace both light and shadow can save Duskwood and perhaps the entire world. An epic tale of sacrifice, redemption, and the unbreakable bond between past and future,